The story begins with a group of heroes battling against the demon lord, Diablo. The demon lord unleashes a powerful magical attack, mocking the heroes for even reaching him. Fred, the priest, starts to lose hope, thinking their defeat is inevitable. However, Max, the hero, refuses to give in and tells Fred to stay strong. His words inspire his companions to rally once more. But just as they regain their footing, Diablo prepares to deliver the final blow. In a last-ditch effort, Fred manages to block the attack, while Leo, another of the group, charges forward to block Diablo's punch. Max takes the opportunity to leap into the air, and Juria, their enchanter, empowers his attack with magic. Max lands the finishing strike, and as the dust settles, the demon lord, impressed with Max's strength, congratulates him. Before succumbing to defeat, Diablo ominously swears that his minions will live on for eternity, and one day calls them useless. Xania, noticing his annoyance, politely suggests that he should put some clothes on. When Diablo goes to try on his old favorite attire, he's shocked to discover that they no longer fit him. Xania explains that because his powers haven't fully returned after just 10 years, his body has changed as well, most notably his gender. Xania had anticipated this change and had prepared some new clothes for him. Diablo is baffled when he sees himself in a dress, but Xania reassures him know what has become of the hero. Xania checks her records, but finds that Max's current status is somewhat of a mystery. In the 10 years since their battle, Max has disappeared from focus on anything else, despite Xania's suggestion to let it go. She reasons that Max, being only human, will eventually die of old age. But Diablo, sensing that she's hiding something, presses her further. Xania panics, and Diablo assumes the worst, that Max must already be dead. Determined to confirm this for himself, Diablo flies off to find Max, excited to announce his return and strike fear into the hero's heart. As he flies over the human realm, finally, Diablo arrives at Max's apartment, but the scene isn't what he expected. Max, half asleep and groggy, barely recognizes him. Diablo starts to wonder if he's at the wrong place, but then he spots Max's holy sword, the very one that defeated him 10 years ago. Max finally recognizes him, but instead of fear, his reaction is one of indifference. Diablo is stunned to find that the once mighty hero who defeated him is now living in such squalor. Max seems completely out of shape and dismisses his appearance as a natural part of aging. Frustrated, Diablo begins to tidy up Max's apartment, complaining about the mess. During his cleaning spree, he finds a laptop and, despite his initial curiosity, remembers the real reason for his visit. He declares that he's back, stronger than ever, and ready to rule over humanity again. But Max remains unimpressed, claiming he doesn't care anymore. Diablo, increasingly frustrated, demands to know what happened to him. Max explains that after defeating Diablo and the other demons, the world no longer had any use for heroes. He faded into obscurity and has since embraced a quiet, unremarkable life. In a world at peace, heroes are unnecessary, and Max doesn't mind living a low-key life. Diablo, curious, begins searching for Max online, and what he finds is a string of scandals and accusations. Max insists that they're all misunderstandings. He didn't know the woman was married. He was only defending himself when attacked, and so on. But Diablo can't help but find it all amusing. Max's reputation is in shambles, with accusations ranging from cheating on multiple women to violent altercations. Diablo laughs at how far the once heroic Max has fallen, even mocking an old interview where Max had spoken humbly about his victory over Diablo and praised his companions. Max admits he hasn't seen his companions in years, explaining that relationships fade when there's no longer any common goal to unite them. Diablo finds this tragic, but also blames Max's egotistical attitude for driving his friends away. Max, however, dismisses Diablo's analysis and tells him to leave. As Diablo prepares to depart, he realizes that the Max he once knew no longer exists. Max, disillusioned with the world and his own past, is content to let Diablo return to power and even encourages him to destroy the world if he wants. Diablo, offended by Max's apathy, considers targeting Max's old companions, starting with Leo, who owes Max money. When Diablo attacks in anger, Max easily defeats him with a single punch, proving that he still has the strength he possessed 10 years ago. Diablo, knocked out cold, wakes up to find himself locked in Max's closet, wondering why Max didn't finish him off. When he emerges, he sees Max distracted, browsing the internet for girls, which leaves Diablo feeling more unsettled than their battle. Max reveals that he has no interest in fighting or killing demon lords anymore. He's no longer a hero, and he doesn't want to make headlines for killing a demon. It's not worth the trouble. Diablo, however, can tell that Max hasn't lost his edge. They exchange final words, with Diablo vowing to return once his powers are fully restored. Max, uninterested, refuses to make any promises about their future confrontation, believing that some new hero will eventually rise to defeat Diablo in his place. As Diablo leaves, he reflects on the conversation and starts to accept that Max has truly changed. But later that night, Diablo returns, this time with the intention of cooking dinner for them. Max, confused and alarmed, finds Diablo's new behavior even more terrifying than his old self. Diablo explains that he's decided to stick around for a while, using the opportunity to study human society over the past 10 years. Though Max is reluctant to babysit him, Diablo insists it will be the other way around. They sit down to share a meal, and Max might not be so bad after all. Meanwhile, a mysterious ghost watches them from the shadows. The next day, Max informs Diablo that he's heading out for a bit. Diablo, intrigued, insists on tagging along, but Max is against the idea. His reason? Diablo doesn't look human enough to blend in. Undeterred, Diablo speculates that Max must be sneaking off to train for their inevitable rematch. This gives Diablo an idea. He could shapeshift and observe Max in secret. Thinking about what form to take, Diablo remembers Xania had once given him a school uniform. With a quick transformation, Diablo assumes the form of a female student and ventures out into the city. As he walks around, he's struck by how much the world has changed in the past 10 years. However, his choice of attire doesn't go unnoticed. People are staring at him because his outfit is a little too revealing. Despite this, Diablo soon spots Max walking around the city and begins to stealthily stalk him, observing his every move. Diablo watches as Max spends the day drinking. In the middle of the day, no less. Max eventually takes a seat on a park bench, and Diablo wonders if this is all Max intends to do for the rest of the day. Soon after, a group of children approaches Max, recognizing him as the hero. They invite him to play soccer with them, and Max joins in. After the game, Max regales the kids with stories of his glory days. Diablo notices that Max seems to fit right in with the children, though the fun is short-lived when one of the mothers calls her son home. Another boy mentions that his mother doesn't want him playing with Max, leaving just one kid who gives Max some food before heading off. After finishing the food, Max dozes off on the bench. Diablo, observing from a distance, wonders why Max doesn't just go home. As he sleeps, a group of thugs approaches Max, telling him that he can't sleep on the bench. One of the thugs grabs Max, unaware of who he is, and challenges him to fight back. Diablo, remembering the story of how Max once attacked a civilian, fears that Max will retaliate. But to his surprise, Max simply shrugs it off, telling the thugs that they aren't worth his time. The thugs take this as a green light and start beating him up. Diablo, upset at the sight, uses magic to make the thugs fall asleep. As they walk home together, Diablo apologizes for not stepping in sooner. Max, however, brushes it off, reminding Diablo that he's no longer a hero, so this is the kind of life he leads now. Max even admits he was freaking out when the thugs were hitting him, but Diablo doesn't buy it. He knows Max was holding back because he's matured enough to be the bigger person. The following day, as Max and Diablo prepare to eat, the doorbell rings. Diablo answers, finding Xania standing outside, happy to see Diablo doing well. Confused, Diablo asks what she's doing there, as she was supposed to be waiting for him at the castle. Xania explains that she was worried about him, but just as she begins to talk, she collapses from exhaustion and immediately starts devouring their food, leaving nothing for Max or Diablo. As she munches away, Xania praises Diablo's cooking skills and casually asks for a toothpick. Max, unimpressed by her manners, thinks she's not exactly fit to be Diablo's secretary. Xania takes offense, accusing Max of being rude. She reveals that she walked for 3 days straight just to reach Diablo. Her journey, she says, was difficult, and she noticed humans staring at her along the way. Assuming it was because she's a demon, Max corrects her, saying it was probably because of her outfit. Xania, however, brushes off his comment and pleads with Diablo to return to the castle, warning that he'll lose brain cells by spending too much time with Max. Diablo insists that he's just staying with Max to study human society, but Xania sees through his excuse, accusing him of being obsessed with Max. She never expected him to stick around after seeing Max's condition, but she's shocked that Diablo is still with him. Max, indifferent, tells Xenia she's free to take Diablo away if she wants. But this suggestion makes Diablo upset, and he insists that he can't function without Max. This leads Xenia to challenge Max directly, saying she will sever Diablo's ties to him once and for all. Max, surprised, notes that she's fighting with brass knuckles instead of magic, which seems out of character for her. Diablo then reveals that Xenia actually has no magical abilities. Despite Diablo's warnings, Xenia charges at Max, but he dodges her attack and grabs a spoon, playfully threatening her with it. Diablo tells Xenia she would have died if Max hadn't gone easy on her, and Xenia reluctantly apologizes, acknowledging Max's strength. Exhausted and covered in sweat, Xenia is told by Diablo to take a bath. While she showers, Max comments on how strong Xenia's punch was, wondering how Diablo managed to deal with her as a secretary. Diablo admits that despite her rough demeanor, she's highly skilled at gathering intel. Once Xenia finishes her shower, Diablo tells her to relax and make herself at home. Meanwhile, Max complains that he's starving, prompting Diablo to offer to buy dinner. Before leaving, Diablo reminds Xenia to be nice to Max since she's a guest in his apartment. As soon as Diablo leaves, Xenia grabs a beer and starts drinking. She warns Max not to corrupt Diablo with his unsavory ways, then accuses him of getting lucky during their fight. Max doesn't seem to be paying much attention to her, which irritates Xenia. She grabs him, pulling him closer, calling him a shitty hero. Max tries to take the beer from her, warning she's had enough, but in the process, he accidentally falls on her chest. Embarrassed, Max apologizes immediately, but Xenia isn't having it. She becomes enraged and begins attacking him again. Max, realizing she's even faster now, panics and runs away. Xenia gives chase, and they end up in an open area where Max decides to fight back for real. Before the fight can escalate, the police arrive, asking Xenia why she's running around town half-naked. Embarrassed, Xenia starts crying, begging for forgiveness. Max steps in and takes responsibility for the situation, explaining to the officers that Xenia is an acquaintance and that he gave her too much to drink. The police, recognizing Max as the great hero who once saved the world, thank him, but Max finds it unfortunate that they had to meet under such circumstances. Back at the apartment, Diablo apologizes for Xenia's behavior, but Max has already moved on, asking if Xenia has gone back home. Just then, Xenia enters, announcing that she's now their neighbor. She's moved in next door. She admits that she still doesn't trust Max and plans to keep a close eye on Diablo. Meanwhile, at the Magic Bureau, Fred, one of Max's old companions, watches a video of Max being chased by Xenia. Recognizing that Xenia is a demon, he recalls a memory from the past. Max and Leo are strolling through the woods when they suddenly spot a group of demons charging at them. Just as they brace for battle, a powerful barrier springs up, halting the demons in their tracks. Meanwhile, in a nearby chapel, Fred is reassuring the townsfolk that the talismans they provided are keeping them safe. However, new demon species have emerged, prompting Fred to introduce an upgraded version of the talismans, offered at a special discounted rate. The townspeople scramble to get their hands on them, but the local duo of troublemakers can't help but chuckle at the talisman's effectiveness. Fred approaches the duo, insisting that these talismans can ward off even the mightiest of demons, but Leo sees right through his deception. Just then, a powerful demon breaks through the barrier, unleashing a horde of smaller demons upon them. Fred and the other clerics spring into action, but they're quickly overwhelmed, prompting the townsfolk to flee in panic. In a twist of fate, a civilian tries using a talisman against a small demon and succeeds, but when he faces a stronger one, it proves ineffective. Leo swoops in to save him just in time, urging him to escape. Fred, growing weary from the fight, gets a helping hand from Max, realizing they're no ordinary travelers. Fred and Max team up to combat the demon army together. They manage to defeat the smaller demons, but just as victory seems within reach, a bolt of lightning strikes, threatening Fred. Fortunately, Leo shields him at the last moment. As they regroup, the demon boss appears, charging at Max. The two exchange blows fiercely, while Fred calls down holy light in a desperate attempt to aid Max. Although they land a decisive blow, the demon boss manages to survive and teleports away. Taking a moment to catch their breath, Fred jokingly admits he's a bit of a shady cleric, having pulled a fast one on the townsfolk with his subpar talismans. Max, however, praises Fred's talent for defending the town with his barrier, and the duo invites him to join their party. In the present, Xania hands Max a book and asks for his thoughts. Upon opening it, he discovers it's about Leo's defection from the kingdom, which sends him into a tailspin, and he quickly walks away. Diablo, recognizing that discussing his old friend's betrayal is tricky, walks outside, where a reporter approaches him, inquiring about a video featuring Xania. Diablo brushes it off, claiming the woman chasing him is just a drunk friend, but the reporter presses on about Xania, prompting him to speedwalk away. The reporter is determined to follow him home to catch him with her, but Diablo suddenly vanishes, leaving only his footprints behind. He's astonished that someone filmed the encounter, but breathes a sigh of relief that no one knows Xania is a demon. Returning to his apartment, he's met by Fred and his group, who mock him for living in such a rundown place. When Diablo is instructed to change, the doorbell rings, and they sense strong magic emanating from the door. Max tells Diablo to hide, fearing that his presence will complicate things. So, Diablo dives into the closet as Max opens the door to reveal Fred. Surprised, Max asks why he's there, but Fred insists they're friends and just wants to catch up. He steps inside, telling his companions to take a break, but Max, not ready to entertain him as the chief secretary of the Magic Bureau, is wary. Fred probes about Max's tidy apartment, which surprises him since he knows Max is usually a mess. When Max pushes for the purpose of Fred's visit, Fred gets nostalgic, reminiscing about their past exploits, including the time they slipped through demon defenses thanks to Max's stealth skills. He sits down, revealing he's there to discuss the Gamma Republic, a new nation founded by Leo after his defection 3 years ago. Fred reveals that this republic is actually a terrorist organization occupying the kingdom's territory, made up of traitors and criminals, and its growing military poses a significant threat. Max wonders if they're on the brink of war, and Fred insists they must prepare for the inevitable confrontation. Max, however, has no interest in participating, but Fred pleads with him to fight for the kingdom, believing he can help stop Leo. He argues that if Max joins the royal army, they might end the conflict swiftly, with Leo possibly surrendering before war breaks out. Fred doesn't want to see casualties on either side and desperately asks for Max's assistance. Max, citing his retirement and diminished skills, is firm in his refusal. Fred informs him that he's guaranteed a higher rank in the royal army, making it a golden opportunity to revive his career, especially given Max's financial struggles. Upset, Fred tells Max he doesn't belong in his cramped apartment, but Max insists this is what his life has come to and tells him to seek help elsewhere. Fred believes Max is reluctant to fight his former friend, but Max insists he has no moral objections and advises Fred to go home. Just as Fred is about to leave, he mentions seeing Max's video with Xania and asks where they met. Max, defensive, refuses to answer. Fred, recalling their shared history, claims he doesn't care if Max hangs out with demons, but worries about public perception, predicting it would become a scandal. Max, however, counters that Xania isn't a demon. Fred urges him to relax, assuring him he's the only one in the know. Then he poses the question, does Max want to return to his heroic life or become a wanted man? When Max states he lacks proof, Fred warns him not to underestimate him and heads toward the closet, sensing an ominous aura inside. When he opens it and sees a ghost, he quickly slams it shut, terrified, and tells Max to stay back as he bolts from the room, leaving Max puzzled. Diablo finally emerges from the closet, and Max asks if he scared Fred. Diablo denies it, saying he was simply hiding. He apologizes for putting Max in this position and admits he might have to leave the kingdom due to the trouble he's in. Meanwhile, Fred's companions are concerned about his condition, questioning if Max attacked him, but he brushes it off, insisting he needs to go home. They remind him he has a meeting to attend and carry him back to his office, though Fred remains determined to recruit Max, believing it's in both their best interests.